Hey, Luka Nation, we're back and we have our weekly guest episode. Today we bring you Stacking Slabs, Brett McGrath. Check out his Stacking Slabs podcast. You can check out all that he has to offer at StackingSlabs.com. Brett is a wrestling card expert. We talk about that. We talk about his picks in football, his thoughts on the hobby overall, and it was really great conversation here about where the hobby has gone in the last year and where Brett thinks it's going in the near future. So thanks for listening.
Well, Luka Nation, we're recording this live for you guys.
So, Luka Nation, welcome back. Welcome back to
There he
another
is. All
episode of
business. All
Luka's-
business. I'm gonna talk over him. All right, go ahead. I'll shut up. Do your intro.
Okay. Well, it's not all business. What I've learned is we actually get a ton of great content and a ton of great conversations before we kick it off. So, for our listening audience, I would love for them to get the benefit of all of it. So, Brett from Stacking Slabs, he's a B2B marketer, a sports card collector, and a wrestling aficionado and fan. And I think today's episode is going to be a huge value add for our Luka Nation community from all of those angles, right? We've had David Peck. We can't forget about him. He was our first episode, and he's a huge wrestling collector. B2B marketing, we love Gary Vee here. A lot of us come from that umbrella. So there's that angle of, we're creating content. How do we attract an audience? How do you build your business? And sports cards, we love that. So I want to introduce you today to Brett McGrath from Stacking Slabs. And I'm really excited to have the conversation with him and have him on our episode today. So welcome, Brett.
Yeah, thank you so much. I am really excited to be here. I have been consuming hobby content like all of us in my downtime, and your podcast has popped up my feed on my feeds everywhere, and I had a chance over the last couple of weeks to dive in, and I will say I'm super jealous. You chatted with the wrestling figure legend, Jeremy Padower, who I am just such a huge mark for. I collected Jack's Classic Superstars, that line, and I am a buyer of the AEW product that he is his brainchild. So I have not got a chance to listen to the episode. I'm going to do that after we get done here, but that was awesome knowing that. I feel like I'm in really good company because he's a great dude, and I'm so excited for him. So, and then you had Chris from House of Jordans, who's one of the best in the hobby. Him and I have had a good time connecting, and he's taught me so much, and I use Card Ladder. So I'm really happy to be in good company with those guests you've had on so far.
Well, we'll have to make an introduction to Jeremy because, and you touched on it, he is a wrestling guy. He's the godfather of Pokemon cards, but he's an even better dude. So he's more than welcome and more than willing to help. You have a whole setup in your house with a microphone and everything. I guess that's a great place to start it off. At what point did you decide to go from collecting sports cards to realize, I start want to sharing content. I've learned all this stuff, and I love in your Twitter bio it says student first. I love that, because we're all students at some level of the game. When did you decide to start kind of talking about and sharing your best information?
Yeah, so like we're all stuck in our homes here. I got re-entered the hobby, February timeframe. I had a little hiatus. I had been heavy on the wrestling collecting side, spent a lot of time collecting memorabilia, figures, meeting groups and communities, and buying and selling. And through those groups, they started breaking wrestling cards, like breaks we see today all over the internet, but with wrestling cards. And I thought, wow, this is incredible. Like, this is cool. Cards rule. Like, this nostalgic component's hitting me. And I started to get itchy. I'm like, all right, well, like, I know there's guys like John Zion. I play fantasy basketball. I wonder what their cards are looking like. So I got down this rabbit hole of just like new product, these guys that I'm paying attention to every day on the DFS and year-long fantasy side. And that just grabbed me and got me right back into the hobby. And right when I got back into the hobby, I was like, this is a lot different than when I was collecting years ago. And there's just so many sets, parallels. there's this nostalgic component, but then there's also the business opportunity. So I got sucked into that. And as I was going through it, I have a pretty obsessive mindset when it comes to things I'm passionate about. I quickly realized that, I'm doing a podcast for professionally for work. I'm talking with the market every day. Why don't I point that to the sports card market and start sharing my story about what I'm learning along the way? Because my thought process was the market's expanding. There's probably a lot of people in their 30s re-entering the hobby trying to figure this out. And that assumption I had was absolutely correct, which I'm sure you guys are figuring out too. There's people like me everywhere. And so really my process is when I'm delivering the content is just, I want to share my insights, and I don't want to like tell people what to do, but I just want to share what my strategies are and give people thoughts, because at the end of the day, I feel like we all need to do the work. And the more you're doing the work, the more fun you're going to have. And then also on the back end, the more opportunities you're going to have to make money on cards. So that's my whole thought process. It's Stacking Slabs is honestly taken off way in a greater way than I can ever imagine. And it really is all about the people that are listening and the engagement I'm having. So that really fuels me on a regular basis.
I love it.
Awesome. It's amazing. It really is. And you obviously, I don't know how long you've been doing it for, but you obviously, you got your tentacles in a little bit of everything here. I said tentacles with an E, Andrew. He's looking at me like, what did you just say? So, I saw on Twitter the other day, you're involved in the Star Stock little challenge there, although you're bringing up the rear, my friend. So I guess you got to pick it up a little bit there. So it's pretty cool, man. You're getting out there and trying a little bit of everything.
Yeah, well, I think you probably saw maybe you saw the initial report, and I'm kind of like the jobber of the bunch, like the guy who like yeah. Nobody knows. But I will say I think I'm third or fourth right now. So Matthew Barry is the top dog after 1 week.
Top. Yeah, he was one.
Yes. Yep. So I'm working diligently on that. But yeah, it's fun. I've been just doing this and sharing my content. I've met so many amazing people, and I think that's what the fun part about doing content is in working in the hobby. People for the most part are so helpful, and the more we can connect, the more we'll share and the more people will learn. And that's what I hope, like in this conversation, I hope we talk about different things. Like I listened to your conversation with Chris and I was like, man, I'm learning so much about 90s cards. And I always feel that when I listen to Chris, and that's like an area that I haven't been to in a while. So I think that's the cool part about people connecting and doing content and talking about sports cards.
So you're a wrestling guy at heart. That's what first brought you back in. Can I share with you a quick, and I guess with our listening audience here, a quick wrestling card break story that I have? All right.
Yeah.
So excited. So, and then I want to get your feedback on this, because I don't do wrestling cards, right? And I watched wrestling as a kid, and it's funny too, because you would think I would be like this hugest wrestling fan in the world, because when Andrew started this podcast and convinced me to do it, because this is all his idea. Our first guest, which if you haven't listened to this one, if you're a wrestling guy, you got to go back. Our first guest was David Peck, who is like the godfather of wrestling cards. He basically convinced PSA to start grading wrestling cards. Like there are cards that only he has graded, right? It's a really cool episode. Really a deep dive into wrestling cards, how he does it, what he does, some real cool vintage wrestling cards. I met him because he and I were bidding against each other on some real vintage wrestling cards, neither of which I own anymore. An Andre the Giant rookie from '73 and a Ric Flair '82. I had one of the 5 PSA 10s of that, no longer in my collection. But in any event, I digress. If you haven't listened to that one, check that out. That's for everybody. It's one of our first, I think it was our first guest episode in week 1. So when I got back into the hobby, just like you're talking about, a couple years ago, one of the things that was completely new was online breaking. And it was a way to access cards, that I couldn't get in my local store, or cards that I couldn't afford, buying a whole box or case of. And I was drawn into a wrestling break because I noticed Topps did a Transcendent product, which was really amazing for baseball. And it had, all these great, amazing 101 cards in it. And then they did a wrestling one last year. It was right before WrestleMania. And it was one of these, it was a suitcase full of cards, right? And it had 2 101s,
Ronda Rousey was in it, and she had some cards and all this crazy, stuff that was in there. It came with like an autographed belt. There was like a slab card that had like Randy Macho Man Savage, cut autos and like Andre the Giant cut. I mean, just like crazy stuff they put in. But I think, it was like a $15,000 product or something like that for the case. It was just insane. But I was like, we could debate, Andrew, all you like if you want, about how breaking is sort of like the online blackjack. But I'm sitting at home one night, it's a couple weeks before WrestleMania, and I'm like, let me get in one of these breaks. And there were like, I don't know, 100 people in it, to make it affordable enough, for a spot in this multi-$1,000 thing. It was, I think I bought 2 spots, and I might have paid $150, or, so it wasn't like crazy. It was really like total gambling, which Andrew hates, right? And it was my first time doing wrestling, but I had watched a couple of breaks, and I was like, this is cool. I remember like all these guys when I was a kid watching this stuff. And the thing got random, and wouldn't you know it, I got first pick. And first pick on these was a VIP. Like every one of them came with a VIP ticket to WrestleMania. And it was like ringside seat plus a VIP event where you got all this swag, you got all this like top stuff, you name it, like you got to meet the wrestlers, you got to do all this crazy stuff, right? And I guess they gave you like a gift bag with more cards in it. It was like a crazy cool gift. Like part of what made the $15,000 or whatever $12,000 purchase was this VIP. You knew you were getting one of these, right? So of course I hit it, I got it, and I listed it on eBay immediately because they were selling for thousands of dollars for this thing. And I'm like, I hit the jackpot on this. This was like, the second luckiest day of my life. First was when I met Andrew, of course. And so in any event, I sell this thing on eBay to a guy, and he goes, and the guy had one of these eBay names where it was very easy to like, find him across all platforms. It was like, I love the taste of Ric Flair's sweat, 123.com or something like that was his eBay name, So, a day or two after the event, I noticed that he posted like 1 million pictures up of him meeting Ric Flair and him meeting all these wrestlers and shaking hands and these huge smiles, and he's meeting, Becky Lynch, or I don't even remember who exactly it was, but the pictures like galore of him smiling and pictures of him in the seat, viewing the event from 20 feet away. And, it was the greatest thing. And the day after I saw those pictures, he put in an eBay claim. And I'm like, what the hell kind of eBay claim could he put in after he went to WrestleMania, after he did the VIP thing and all this stuff? I'm like, what kind of claim is this? So he puts a claim in, and eBay contacts me and says, what's the story here? The guy's saying, item not as described. And I said, item not as described? I mean, it was a VIP event that he went to. It was hosted by Topps, like a Topps Transcendent thing, right? And so I respond to eBay and say, here's his Facebook page. Here's a picture of him with like half the wrestling roster. Here's him, at the fancy VIP party. I mean, he obviously went, he got the value for it. He did the whole thing. Finally, after like a week of the back and forth with eBay, he writes in that his version of it is that in his opinion, it wasn't VIP enough. So I had to like, it took like a month out of my life to do this. I mean, it's a little sideways we're taking it here because it's not really, a wrestling story, but that was the last time I bought a wrestling card. Because I'm like, all right, so do me a favor, tell me that the entire wrestling card community is not like this.
It's not, and that sounds more like a Topps Project 2020 story.
Oh, yeah,
like
yeah.
you could have been Topps Project 2020, and they could have been asked for returns. That's wild. Well, at least you did your due diligence and you had your investigator hat on and you were finding his pictures, and I'm sure you used that to your advantage when you're.
I won the claim. I definitely won
go.
the claim. I won the claim 100%.
I'm telling you, Luka Nation, you don't want to go after this guy. He's a rabid dog when you make him mad.
Andrew seen it a couple of times.
Just a few. He's a teddy bear on the outside.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's my only wrestling story. It was a really cool break, though, and some of the wrestling cards are awesome. Some of the stuff that's out there is amazing.
They are, and I've just on the wrestling card front, I've been very picky and selective, and listeners of my show have heard me talk about this, but I'll just share it with listeners of your show. If you're interested in wrestling cards and opportunities, There's one that is a foolproof no-brainer, and I'm not a picks guy, but this is just talking about transcendent superstar that is on the brink of retirement, Hall of Famer, potential top 5 guy of all time, and that's The Undertaker. The Undertaker's cards, in my opinion, are completely undervalued. There are slabbed Undertaker cards. I went on a run of buying BGS 9 to 8.5 Undertaker rookie cards. There's 2 sets, the classic US, and then there's an Italian set. But those cards, to me, like when that guy goes in the Hall of Fame, that guy finally hangs it up, has his last match. Like there's a ton of opportunity in there. So go check out the Undertaker's rookie cards if you're listening, and tell me what you think.
Are there any Paul Bear rookie cards out there?
There's in the Italian set, there's like 6 different variations of the Undertaker. One of them, which I own, which I can't walk upstairs right now because we're doing construction, but it's like so iconic. It's like the Undertaker with the purple gloves on, and Paul Bear is like holding the urn, like controlling him. It's beautiful.
Paul Bear. That's the one I'm going to try to find now. The only Paul Bear on 100%. Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, so this is going to come from what seems like right field or left field, whatever they say.
Our listeners expect this from you by now, so go for it.
But so you work in tech companies. You come from the Silicon Valley space. And one of the things that for me was super fascinating is if you look at the person who bought the $1.8 million LeBron card, that's a Silicon Valley guy. And 5-10 years ago, these guys wouldn't be caught dead talking about sports cards or daily fantasy or sports betting. No way. Salesforce, the big companies are all tech. And now you're seeing this money flow into sports cards. And that to me is super interesting. So my first job out of college was in the Bay Area after I left Wall Street, was in the Bay Area. So I got to see a preview of that and I left. You have 2, what does it say? 1 foot in both courts. What have you seen from that? Why do you think these tech investors are getting into sports cards? Why would he buy that card? I find that very fascinating.
Yeah, I think just the natural progression, I think, with just people in money who have so much money they don't know what to do with. A lot of the times people tend to go back to what are the things that make them happy with disposable income, and things that make a lot of people happy are related to distractions, and sports is probably the number one distraction that we all have as fans. And then you take that a step further. You think about the times where we were all happy as kids, and that was going to the LCS, getting packs of cards, ripping them and pulling, getting your guys and getting excited, building sets. And now it's this like whole new world and transformation. And you've got like the nostalgic component, but then you also have the component of like, wow, these are investments. Like I don't have to invest in stocks. I can invest in something that I spend a lot of time doing, whether it's being in fantasy, whether it's watching the games. So I think I'm not sure, I think it's just people who've done well in their professional career, who have a lot of disposable income, who maybe don't want to put it in real estate or don't want to put it in the stock market, view sports cards as an alternative investment. That's a whole ton of fun because you can turn on your television, watch LeBron James in the Western Conference Finals against Denver, and have a stock in LeBron James. So I think I'm not really sure from the tech industry if there's a big correlation. I just think it's just people with money looking for places to put it that's going to make them happy, and sports cards is kind of a good connection.
Do you think their angel investments are drying up and they don't see as many of those opportunities, so they feel they have a little more disposable income?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm in tech in Indianapolis, so I'm less connected to the Silicon Valley. I worked at Salesforce. Salesforce actually in Indianapolis, for anyone who doesn't know, Salesforce U.S. Employee count, it's number 2 here in Indianapolis to San Francisco, and part of that is because of an acquisition that Salesforce made at a company that I worked for a long time ago, ExactTarget, that powers their marketing clouds. So the world's there is a Midwest tech hub, but the way it operates and the personality types I found is very different from kind of like the Silicon Valley, not for better or worse. It's just different. So I think, from my perspective, it's like, I'm not sure. It's hard for me to forecast or speak for what they're doing. I just think I go back to the point of just the connection with people with money, putting it into sports and sports cards, and not really sure why outside of it makes them happy, and they're betting or they're playing fantasy. So it's just another alternative.
You didn't ask me, Andrew, but I think it's publicity. I think a lot of it is publicity. A young guy starting to start his own company off, you name it. It's almost like an advertising budget, right? And, LeBron, it costs $1.8 million. But, how many hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of advertising he gets out of it for the next year? Like, everybody wants him on a podcast. Everybody wants to talk to him. Everybody wants to do who is this person that bought it? And even if he sells it at a slight loss in a year or two, think of the mileage he's gotten out of a card like that, which, transitions over to what we're all talking about, which is just the comeuppance of this hobby. That's something that no one would have thought about a year or two ago. But this has become such a widespread play here. Everybody's cards are mainstream. You read about them all the time. You read about it in the Wall Street Journal. Some main social influencers are talking about it. Steve Aoki is buying cards. I mean, it's all walks of life. It's pretty cool. I mean, it allows us to talk about it too, right? So
it's really fascinating because when I was there in 2013, 2015, it was still that time period where gambling and daily fantasy was still a little bit taboo. Like now these things are pretty mainstream, but at that point there wasn't the DraftKings, there wasn't FanDuel. I think crypto was the big thing that was happening there. And I am seeing a lot of, and I brought this up on quite a few episodes, like when people ask, is it a bubble? Is it a bubble? I said, truthfully, I don't think it's a bubble because I'm seeing these accredited investors move their money in, and a lot of them come from that Silicon Valley space. So that was interesting for me to see that.
I like the publicity component, and that's a great take. And, I was upstairs messing with my cards like we all do, staring at them. It was in the morning, and before my wife's in medicine and she was doing telehealth at the beginning of COVID, and she just started screaming at me like, get downstairs. And I was like, what is it? We've all done that with our wives. And I run downstairs, and the freaking Today Show is talking about the Mike Trout card sale. So it's like, this is becoming, this is mainstream media. This is becoming larger than life, and we're all a part of it. So I think that's a great take. Like, I do agree. Like, if you've got a company or you've got something to promote, that's something you can attach to all of those media interviews along the way. So, but yeah, it's fascinating. It's changing every day. It's fun.
What's your favorite card that you picked up this year?
So I would say I have been, it's tough.
Andrew likes to make people feel uncomfortable. That was not a question that I think would make you feel, but somebody who's been in this hobby, right? And somebody who's putting the money in and it might be hard to pick one. So if you have to pick, you can pick 2 or 3. It's okay.
Yeah.
We'll like to put people on the spot.
Yeah. So I would just say probably my, just in general, my instincts, and still this jury can still be out, even though we're just 1 week into it. But my instincts on the hobby and the response in the projected play of Kyler Murray, I've been all over that. And so I, bought his silver PSA 10, which is a low pop card. I think there's 88. The card, I think is trading for $4,000. I bought it for $2,200. I bought it actually from Josh, who is Cardboard Chronicles, who's one of the brightest minds in the hobby. He was offloading some stuff. I jumped on it. That card stands out along with a lot of the serial numbered Kyler PSA 10 cards I bought, tricolor stuff, just silver stuff. I'm very big in investing in a guy that I think has a ton of upside. And I really compared crossover from football to basketball and, Luka, and seeing what Luka did and the growth of Luka's cards and the hype behind Luka. I really, like, from a card perspective, really am taking a chance on trying to buy in on Kyler, like when Chris from House of Jordans bought in on Luka. So that was kind of my strategy. And it's been interesting because although I'm a Colts fan and I took a brutal loss on Sunday, I did pick myself up and turned on the 4:15 games and just wanted to watch Kyler ball out. And what did Kyler do? He balled out. And what I said is, in order for his cards to continue to elevate, he needs to win games that he shouldn't. And winning a game against the San Francisco 49ers on the road week 1 is a game he shouldn't have win. So to me, like, Kyler Murray is that guy. All of his cards that I bought, just because I have an emotional attachment to him now, and he's so much fun to watch. So I think that, like, with everybody, like, pick a guy. You gotta have your blue chip guys. Like, I've got tons of Peyton Manning. I've got LeBron. Those are guys that are steady. They're not going to go down. They're only going to go up. But then go take your shot. Take a chance on a guy. And for me this year, that guy's Kyler Murray, and it makes watching football a lot more fun.
So you think if LeBron wins a championship this year, his cards aren't going to go down?
If he does win,
let's throw 2 scenarios. If he does win and if he doesn't win,
he's Teflon. I think he's fine no matter what. I mean, he's like, he transcends the sport, transcends pop culture. His cards might see a dip for a minute, but he's steady. And I think guys like LeBron, guys like Tom Brady, guys like Peyton Manning, these like legends, that they're good investments. And what I tell people is that, you know, their rookie cards and all of those cards you see and the chromes and the refractors, it all is expensive. And yes, it is expensive. But, like, you don't have to start, and your entry point doesn't need to be in that card. Go buy up some of this other stuff. Go buy second year. Go buy some serial number cards. At the end of the day, like, if you're in it for the long haul, those cards are going to appreciate over time. And I think those will get people excited about owning a piece of those players. Like, Peyton just got announced for the Hall of Fame. Of course, right? He's on the list. He's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. You don't think Peyton Manning's cards are going to go up once he's given that Hall of Fame speech? I do. Like, so I think, like, people just like it. People get like the shiny objects, silver prisms of these prospect rookies. We all do it. I've done it. I bought a ton of Sekou Doumbouya on the Pistons, tons. Like, I'm talking thousands of dollars, because I've researched this guy, and I think this kid has potential to be a really good player. I don't want to go high like Giannis type stuff, but I think I'm saying like a Pascal Siakam. I think he can be that type of player. And I was buying his cards for cheap because I believe in this guy. So I do that, but it's like, don't just go spread it out amongst all these rookies, because they're not all going to hit. Pick a few you believe in, but then go put your money in like guys that are steady and are going to be the types of guys that are going to appreciate over time. So that's my philosophy and strategy. And I just think it helps mitigate risk and allows me to have more fun while I'm watching guys like Kyler Murray play. Cause I know it's not all in on Kyler.
I love that. I mean, Cage brought up this term, and I can't stop using it. It's flight to quality. And what I heard there is you have your assets, your blue chip stocks, and we could all debate who those are, but there's a pool of 20 of them, and you pick, is it Peyton, is it Jordan, is it Kobe, is it LeBron? You pick yours, and then also in the same way, pick 1, 2, or 3 high risk but even higher reward guys that you think are under the radar. And it sounds like Kyler was that for you at the beginning of this year.
Yeah. No, and I love that term. I think that's cool. You should brand it. And Kyler, like, I'm not going to lie. I wasn't buying Kyler for like $100 a pop. I was spending money, but like my process was like, let me get in front of the hype before it explodes. And you think like, Kyler Murray, this week he's playing Washington. Like, he has another good game. I mean, if he strings these games together, people, within the first 5 weeks are going to be talking, wow, look at what he's doing with the Cardinals. They were crappy last year. Like, now he's an MVP candidate. Well, it helps that he's got a year under his belt. It helps that he's got a coach that's obsessed with him over the year. And it helps that he's got DeAndre Hopkins. Yeah. So it's like, I don't know. I don't just look at the player. I look at all the factors. The organization is building around him, which you don't often see, AKA Mitchell Trubisky. The Bears, like, you can say what you want about Mitch Trubisky, but the Bears have done him absolutely no favors his entire run in Chicago. So, like, the opposite of that to me is what the Cardinals have done just in the second year with Kyler Murray. So I think you got to evaluate all those factors when you're investing in some of these young guys.
there's a lot to unpack there, right? So we picked Kyler preseason also. He's one of our picks as well. And the addition of the supporting cast around him is really good. It shows the team believes in him. I think that division is real tough. I think the Niners took a step back. That was my pick in our preseason picks to be the best division in football. And I don't think anyone in the division is going to have a losing record, which is, pretty crazy. But I think they're going to beat up. I think they're going to beat up on each other. I think Murray's great. I think he's a great pick. I think the low pop on PSA 10 Prism cards for the quarterbacks is something that's a drum Andrew's been beating for a really long time. When you compare it to basketball, I think football is definitely, that's why you see the prices that you do. I think Kyler's a great play. I think a lot of what you talked about is a great play. Sekou Doumbouya is so young. A lot of people were on him. He didn't finish as strong, but remember, he's never played an NBA season like that. You'd expect him to retire at the end. I like find somebody you like, who you can root for, who you can cheer for, and put some money in his cards. And my son and I were in New York, and watching Knick games was almost like, too much torture. So we just decided not to. But we had, the basketball package. I think we did it through Amazon. And, because they were so young and flashy, we became Charlotte Hornet fans. I mean, we could have become a fan of anybody. We found ourselves watching the Hornets and just watching Devontae Graham's game evolve. And I don't even want to tell you how many Devontae Graham cards I have, but I'm just picking one, his Prism Silver rookie. Last count, I have 63 PSA 10s of his silver. So I mean, I find somebody I like and I just buy them, and most of them I graded myself.
Can I comment on Devontae Graham?
Yeah.
So dude, I love Devontae Graham. Tough market, but I mean, his numbers, what he was doing, there was like 6 guys in the NBA who had the same numbers, and they were all like elite.
Yeah.
Luka, James Harden.
Trey,
Yeah. And it's like, to me, and I just gotta say, like, it's a publicity stunt and an absolute embarrassment that guy wasn't one of the 3 for most improved player. Like, I love that kid. He's tough as nails. I seen him put up almost 50 points on the Pacers one night. So yep. I love that kid. And I've been sniffing around his cards because I'm like, I got to get in on him.
Well, listen, if you want some, I'll sell you some at a discount as a thank you for coming on. I promise. I got enough. And I've already made, more than I put in it, just, selling some here and there, stuff that I graded that just didn't jive with my collection. It's funny how that happens. I'd buy lots and, people would have select cards, select silver cards, other cards that were not the ones that I was collecting in there. And I would send them into PSA and grade them for $8. They come back at 10 and, it's a way of defraying costs. But before we get too far down Devontae Graham, because Andrew's going to hate me for that, there was one thing you said that I do want to unpack a little bit. It was the only thing you said that I disagreed with. Almost everything I agreed with. LeBron cards, LeBron being Teflon, Tom Brady, that those are blue chips and that no matter what, it's going to happen. There might be a slight dip. And I think that there might even be a dip in Brady cards, but over the long term, those are blue chips. That is the epitome of flight to quality. The one thing that you said that I do want to kind of talk to you about, it's something that I no longer agree with. I thought it as a kid, and I think it did apply as a kid. You're talking about Peyton Manning, and I love his cards, and I think his cards are going to be great. I think his cards are a great long-term hold. And comparing them to Brady's cards, they're actually undervalued, and there's some room for those to grow, and it's a nice space to put some money in if you're looking for a football play, guys listening to this. And this is not just about Peyton, but you mentioned that Peyton was announced for Hall of Fame, and that you said definitely Peyton Manning's cards are going to go up when he's giving that Hall of Fame speech. That's the part that I want to take issue with, because I remember collecting in the 80s as a kid saying, all right, this guy's going to make a Hall of Fame. And when he hits the Hall of Fame, his cards are going to fly. And I'm a huge Mariano Rivera fan, which, I'm in New York. I think he's one of the greatest to ever do what he did. I think he's, a great player. And I will tell, if Andrew gave me 30 seconds every episode to recommend a card, the 92 Bowman PSA 10 Mariano Rivera is that recommendation. It's criminally underpriced still.
But that's because that's your outfit to work every day. You have to let
I wear that same Panama
like
shirt. You're right. I wear that shirt. That's why I like the card. Exactly. But it's funny because I thought when he was nominated for the Hall of Fame and, we'd have all that publicity that the card would go up. You'd see a 10%, 20%, 30% increase or something about that, the Hall of Fame. But there wasn't. I mean, Jeter cards, they're steady to go up. But the Hall of Fame was not like an impetus. I haven't seen that jump because of the Hall of Fame that you'd expect to see. Who was in the NBA Hall of Famers this year? Was it Garnett?
Garnett.
Right? So Garnett,
Duncan.
Kobe, obviously.
Duncan.
I didn't see a huge Garnett increase. I mean, Duncan, yes, but it kind of went because Kobe went up and all the other stuff was going up. It's just a fun thing that, we've got 65 episodes now, and we haven't really talked about this. Do you see cards going up when Hall of Fame happens? Is it maybe football? It happens more. Maybe I'm just talking about like baseball.
Yeah. So I think to me, the game has changed with this market and when I'm talking about this market, I'm talking about like this month before COVID to now market,
right,
where you've got things like the Last Dance documentary that has just that in and of itself, and what was happening with Jordan's cards, Pippen's cards, Rodman's cards, Reggie Miller's cards, like
Tony Kukoc's cards. It didn't matter.
I bought and sold a finest PSA 9 Tony Kukoc rookie, and I feel bad that someone paid me that much for it. But I think just with this market and the way it is right now, and these market conditions changing every day, these people are constantly looking for documentaries along with on the court play and these milestone moments. And I've always viewed now, especially like if you're winning the Super Bowl, if you're going to the Hall of Fame, or if you're dying, like those are like those compelling moments where people are going to gravitate because all the attentions are going to be on those individuals. And for me, it's like I really try not to talk about Peyton Manning all the time because he's my favorite athlete of all time, being a Colts season ticket holder forever. I was walking by Lucas Oil today, actually on a walk at lunch, and there's a statue outside of Lucas Oil, Peyton Manning. It's beautiful. Like, he means so much to me. So like for me as a fan, I can't wait for him to go to the Hall of Fame. And I know Peyton's got a big following across the country. So like, I think it's like maybe, with Mariano Rivera, like obviously just one of the greatest ever, right? Like one of the greatest walk out to the mound, unbelievable music, just killer, right? So like, I think like maybe if Rivera would have went to the Hall of Fame during this stretch, things might have changed and might be a little different, but that's my expectation now. Like, I don't think it's always been that way, but I think the game has changed a little bit, and things like the Hall of Fame are going to matter more than ever to sport card collectors and investors.
All right. Listen, makes sense. It's just one of those things I haven't tracked, right? I mean, nice to see a chart on it, right? But, it used to be, when this guy, we're going to hold us this when he goes to the Hall of Fame. And then, people would get in the Hall of Fame and I wouldn't see any kind of, increase, any kind of appreciation in their cards. It was just, it's one of those things that I think maybe I'll do a little bit of research on also. And it might be different on sports. Peyton Manning, forget about it. That's just, he's amazing. And you know what I like about him the most? Not what he did on the field. I like what he's able to do after. Because there's not a lot of people that are able to do this, right? I mean, he's relevant, if not more relevant now because of his ridiculous commercials. I mean, the insurance commercials, the Papa John's commercials. I mean, he's, it's almost like the
ESPN detail is pretty cool too.
It's like Shaq, right? I mean, he's got his own show, right? And he's investing in things. He's remained relevant because of his personality and the whole deal. And I think that will also help long-term value for him and for his cards. I really do. I liked Peyton Manning playing. Every time he played Brady, I rooted for Peyton Manning. Not because I was a Manning fan or a Colts fan or a Denver fan. I'm a Raider fan. So the fact when he went to Denver was horrible for me. But it doesn't matter. With Brady with the tuck rule, I hope Brady lost every game after that. So, to me, Manning was that was the A and B, Manning and Brady. And I can't believe that when you look at the prices that his cards are not anywhere near what Brady's are, and they should be.
Were you happy when he won with Denver?
I love that question. So happy. And, it was an interesting time as a fan, just in general, because we let go of a legend here to bring in Andrew Luck. And I will also just short soundbite on Andrew Luck. Love the kid. He got set up for failure. He gave us so many moments as Colts fans, like forever. Like he's got a piece in my heart just for how much he gave while he was here. So I hold nothing against him. But when we let Manning go because of the neck, of course we knew we were getting Luck on the other side. So it was like we were saying goodbye to an old car and getting a brand new, fresh, souped up car. And that was tough for a lot of fans. And so like, it was, dude, when I turned on like NFL Week 1 that year, and Peyton was wearing an orange Broncos jersey. Like, that was tough. And it took me about a year or so, but by the time he was on his last lap, like, everybody here in Indianapolis who's a true fan were on their feet pulling for the Broncos the whole time, because we knew that this guy had given it his all and he deserved to go out on top. So I just want to say, like, the Broncos fans out there who got Peyton in his last run and got that Super Bowl, like, how much fun is that? Like, they got to experience a little bit of what we did over those years. So happy for the guy so much. And I don't think I have ever cheered outside of the Colts beating the Bears in a Super Bowl for a team that much in that game. So to answer your question, true fans of Peyton Manning were cheering for Peyton Manning in Indianapolis that day.
Cage couldn't be more excited for the Colts this year. So he's already given 2 plays or 2 guys to look out for. N'Keal
Hines. I actually was on Hines. Can you believe that? I actually was on
Paris
Hines.
Campbell.
Yeah. And Paris Campbell.
So that's good, especially with the Mac injury. So I heard somebody call, which I love this. Someone called Naeem Hines. I wish I could reference who it was. Called him Phillip Rivers' new sidecar, and it's just like Darren Sproles. Like, he's going to throw to the backs. We loved Hines last year. We complained in Indy saying he didn't get on the field as much as he should. He ran back 2 punt returns in a game at the end of last year. Guy can ball. He's quick. I think if you've got him on your fantasy teams, you're going to be really happy. He's going to get a ton of touches. And it was really
Sproles
exciting.
is a great comparison, by the way. Although I got to tell you, I also like Taylor. And I think Taylor could be a much better pass catching back than – and we talked about this. I mean, you watched that preview. I mean, I gave him Melvin Gordon comparison, right? Because same school, same college, same type of numbers. Gordon had, the no catches. But Rivers just makes you catch the ball out of the backfield. That's what he does. That's his MO. So I think, look, Hines was a great Week 1 story. I think Taylor is going to be a great story for the year.
I agree. And on the Jonathan Taylor front, on the sports cards, I'll tell you how I try not to get shiny object syndrome, but I do love Jonathan Taylor, and I wanted a piece of him on the sports card side. So last night I had been watching a Jonathan Taylor mosaic choice red auction on eBay. And I was like, I'm gonna buy this card because I want to buy it and I want to get it slabbed and I want to have a piece of Jonathan Taylor early in the game because I'm optimistic with him, and it's easy to when you've got the Colts offensive line like they do. And I put a max bid of it was $100 with 7 minutes to go. I put a max bid of 163. I like to do not just straightforward, do a 3 just in case. And somebody beat me in $164 for this 10-10 mosaic Jonathan Taylor card. So the market is turned on to him. They know that Mac is out. They know he's going to get more carries. So it's fun to see what's happening on the field translate into what's happening on the sports card market. And I've been talking about that forever. But yeah, I think I'm not jumping over a cliff yet on the Colts losing to Jacksonville at Week 1. I think it's a weird season. I think the one thing I'll give credit to is Gardner Minshew. Man, that guy is he just doesn't make any mistakes, and they took advantage of an injury and they played a really good game. So all the credit in the world to Jacksonville in that game.
I love Minshew, by the way. Love him.
He's
love
great.
Him.
He's
I was
great.
on him last year, starting Week 2. I was forget about Foles. I made so much on the college stuff. When the first couple of products came out and he was still in his college uniforms, I was buying the autos for $2, $3. And
can you imagine?
After a couple of weeks, it's crazy what happened. I mean, he's got it all, right? The mustache. Go ahead.
Yeah, he was wearing a Macho Man headband at the end of the game. I wanted to hate him, but I loved him.
Yeah, you can't. You're rooting for the team against him, and you're like, man, I would drink a beer with this guy.
Totally.
He's Uncle Rico.
He is. But can you imagine if Gardner Minshew was on the Jacksonville Jaguars, that team that went to the AFC Championship? Can you imagine if he was their quarterback? They would have won the damn Super Bowl.
Yep. Yeah, he manages the game well, right? I mean, he only had 170 yards on 19 passes, which is not a great, average per completion, but he's not doing anything to lose the game. And we did – there's another guy I picked. I mean, I only picked 2 quarterbacks. He was one of them. He was a big pick for me for this year. His Prism card, I think it's still underpriced. And what I talked about was how not only was he number 5 in the league as rushing quarterback in rushing yards, he can scramble. I mean, he can move. He's got a tremendous lower body. Hard to bring him down. But more importantly with him, I think he had 21 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. I mean, he doesn't turn the ball over, which, it's crazy because he kind of came out of nowhere. Nobody was expecting him to start. And now he doesn't just start. He starts and he plays well. So I'm huge on Minshew because he brings – so I'm a Tatis fan in baseball, right? Because it's not just to go out there and lead the league in home runs. It's go out there, lead the league in home runs, and when you're done hitting the home run, come back in the dugout and shake your ass. Do your little dance that everybody knows what you're doing, and you get people excited, right? Minshew, he had a whole stadium in Jacksonville last year with fake mustaches on. It's Minshew mania, man. It's crazy stuff. They brought Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite, and they had like a whole, like the two of them, like the Spider-Man pointing finger at each other, meme you see all over the place. I mean, that's cool. That's stuff that the league can market, the team can market, and it brings you more than just what you're doing on the field into the hobby, into the cards. I mean, it's some excitement. So I think we need more guys like that.
Luka Nation, sorry about that background noise you're hearing. It's Cage is a super dad. I've already told you that before, and his kids are playing ball in the yard.
There they are. They're doing an NFL combine.
So he's a super dad. So what can we say? You take the good with the bad. There is some background noise, but it's all right. And he's wearing a Gryffindor shirt.
Guys, who's gonna win? Who's gonna win the game tonight? Well, how old are you guys? We got like a 7-year-old, 9-year-olds. Who's gonna win? Okay, but we have 2 Joe Burrow picks for the night, which goes against what I would say.
You still haven't bought them ice cream, right, to get them on your
No, ice cream truck comes in about 20 minutes. And once there's ice cream, they'll be quiet. I'll keep them quiet with ice cream.
Brett, you mentioned you were bidding on Mosaic of Jonathan Taylor. What do you think of that release? Do you think Mosaic NFL is here to stay?
Yeah, I do. It'll be interesting to see what happens with it, just in terms of just football in general. I'm curious about just what happens with football, if the hype maintains or whatever. But to me, like, Mosaic is the set in basketball and in football now, that new people who entered during the hype period, that's the first like legit premium product that people get their hands on. So I think for that reason in and of itself, it's here to stay. It'll be
Chronicles?
No. Or Illusions? No.
I think they were very smart to release the football first and have Mosaic come out early the way they did, because I got to tell you, I think the only reason why Mosaic was popular in basketball was because there was no Prism that anybody could get their hands on anymore.
Totally.
You couldn't break it just at the price point. It was too much. And, I've been, and I still think this, I've been low on Mosaic. I mean, I broke a bunch of it because it was accessible online breaks. I didn't get any of it in Target or Walmart because I have not yet bribed any of the store managers. But, it's just one of those things. But my son loved it. It's like the shiniest of shinies, right? It's all these crazy shiny cards in Mosaic. And I think it was smart for them to release it before Prism football, because I think everybody would have chased Prism. And I still think people are going to chase Prism. And the thing that I do worry about with a product like Mosaic is people are really putting a lot of money into it. And it's almost like, I'll talk back to last year when football season started. I remember I had all my Gardner Minshew Prism draft cards, right? Autographs, numbered autographs, camo out of 25, you name it, all these things. And what was it? Illuminance? Am I saying that right? The one that just came out now. They had that out last year. Luminance, right? So that was out. That just came out also, right? And he had his college uniform on in that also. And they were selling like crazy. But then the regular pro uniform stuff came out. A little different in football because Mosaic's got the pro uniform football. But those cards all dropped. Every one of them dropped because people didn't want the college uniform. They want the actual jersey card. You name it, that was part of it. But also, better quality products came out, and look, National Treasures is, it's not price accessible for everybody, but Prism was, Optic will be, and I'm worried about a saturation in the market, too many things. I mean, there's still more basketball products coming out, this year. And I just worry that people they're putting their entire disposable Clyde Edwards-Helaire budget into Mosaic, when significant other products at a higher price point or, at more of what you consider more of a blue chip kind of card are going to come out for that guy. So that's the only thing that concerns me about. Right now, it's the only game in town, right, Mosaic? I mean, you're not going to be buying the score stuff when Mosaic's there. I'm just,
I'd love to hear what Brett has to say on that. Let me just real quick, for the people like me who are relatively new to tracking releases, this is the first year of Mosaic being a standalone product. And why does that matter specifically? This is the first year, and correct me if I'm wrong, that Mosaic NFL came out before Prism NFL.
Yeah, well, it's the first year there's been a Mosaic NFL. And last year was the first year there was a Mosaic basketball, and Mosaic basketball was one of the later releases. Prism came out significantly earlier, months earlier.
Yeah. So I just talked about this on one of my episodes, and just the importance of like paying attention to products in each sports and which products matter. And this is to me me digging in, looking at the data, talking and confirming with people. And I talked about this on one of my episodes that, like with football, Mosaic's new. I like what I said. I think it's here to stay based on new people entering the hobby. First product, it looks good. It's going to be a sustainable product, I think. But like historically on the football side, it's Prism, Contenders, right? Contenders, not the optic, but the Contenders, the autos, the numbers. Look at go back and look through like guys that are playing in the NFL, like Tyler Lockett, T.Y. Hilton, Michael Thomas, like not like 1 or 2 year receivers. Those cards are what matter. Go look at their prices. National treasures, right? Those cards matter in football. And the one I'm bullish on right now is just Select, just because I love the way Select is. They break the product down into 3 sets, and how serial number cards are such a big part of that set. So I caution all of your listeners, when new products are released after Mosaic, they're going to continue to pump it out. Not all of them are going to matter. Only some of them matter, and you're going to want to pay attention to those.
I love that, and it's sports specific, right? So I love the Contenders play that you just mentioned, and here's why. I even like the Select play, and I'll tell you why as well. So Contenders more so for football than for basketball, and a lot of it depends on continuity, right? A lot of it depends on history, right? So if someone were to ask me what parallel card I like the most, I like gold, because every year's got a gold, right? I don't love the Trout Diamond as much as I like the Trout Gold, because I'm going to collect a Christian Yelich gold. I'm going to have a Tatis gold. I'm going to have the gold. I can't get a Diamond Anniversary Tatis, right? If you were to have all the money in the world, right, and you could buy one Tom Brady rookie auto, what would you buy?
Right now?
You'd buy one of the Contender autos, right? You'd buy one of those playoff Contender autos, which are, 6-figure cards, you name it, but guess what? There was Contenders. And one of the iconic football cards from 20 years ago of Tom Brady's rookie auto is Contenders. And people know that, and people see that card, and it helps drive a product like Contenders in football, because you think the OG card is that. Now you think about LeBron, it's not really a Contenders auto for him, right? It's a different kind of thing, right? And people look back to, what Contenders were nice last year, a couple of cracked ice, cool parallels, you name it, but there is not that track record with Contenders the same way there is if you want to get, basketball cards. You can't do tops, right? But 2012 Prism, that's a crazy set, right? That's the set people look at with all those rookies and all the cards going, for all the money that they go for. So I think that Prism in basketball kind of has that longevity. Select is a cool sneaky play, because although it's changed over time, it used to be a score product. I have cards from the 90s in Select. Again, different Select, right? But I got Drew Bledsoe rookie cards Select in my basement, So there is a lot to be said about track record and continuity and that kind of stuff. And do your research, right? Because what works in football may not work in basketball, and vice versa.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think there's going to be new products. Panini's not going to stop. They're going to keep coming out. But that doesn't mean as someone in the card market that, you're jumping in and you need to go buy hobby boxes or go camp out at retail for these cards to come. Because I don't know, it's a gamble, and you just got that's something I've learned along the way. And it's I'd rather put my money into proven products and proven cards over time. And I think that's just a learning that we all go through as we're trying to navigate and figure things out.
Yeah, I love breaking, but anybody can tell me otherwise. It's gambling. That's all it is. And, we like doing it. I miss card shows, man. New York, we haven't had card shows in a while, but I love going to card shows. And one of the worst things in the world that could ever happen, it's like a gambler, winning at blackjack and going on a heater the first time they ever gamble, and then they chase that forever. I took my son, who was 6 at the time, to a card show, and we bought blasters of Prism basketball for $35, which, come on, I could have got nothing in them, and they're worth $35, right? But we bought blasters for $35, and it's an amazing story. So I'll try to get rid of some of the background chatter there, Andrew. But
Oh, thank you so much.
I let him buy those.
Really? That was a gift for me. Thank you for
It is. That's a gift for you. So we have those $35 Prism blasters, right? And he's like, "Hey, Daddy, I want to buy one." So I'm like, "All right, buy one. Here, it's $35." And his first box, he gets a Zion. And I'm like, "All right, yeah, come on now." Now he thinks there's a Zion on every box, so forget about it. And he's like, "I want to buy another one." Somebody, of course, comes over and says, the guy who had the table is like, I'll give you another blaster for the Zion. Should tell you, what Zions were worth at the time, $35. And we were considering the offer because that's what they were selling for. Crazy, right? So I tell the guy, no, let him open up the other box. We don't have any Zions, let him open up the other box. So he opens the second box and he gets another Zion. And this one has a little bit of a scratch in it. Now my son, who's, going to be doing cards with me for the next forever, thinks literally everything you open has the best card in it, right? So I tell him,
bad way to start.
You want to get another blaster? You can get another blaster. Go right ahead. If you want to, you can. Go get another blaster. Trade your Zion with the scratch in it for another blaster. So he brings it to the guy. The guy's thrilled. He gets a Zion, and he has another blaster. So he opens up the other blaster, and of course now everybody's kind of gathered around because he's 2 for 2 on $35 blasters and getting a Zion, and everybody gathered around and. No one wants to buy because my son has kicked the product. No, you're not going to get anything better. The 2 Zions are pulled. So he opens up the third blaster, the one that he got by trading a Zion for the blaster, a sealed blaster, and he gets a Zion silver in it. So I'm screwed forever, right? So now there's 2 blasters left. Nobody wants to buy him. The guy is complaining to me that I've killed his product and no one's going to ever buy those 2 blasters from him for $70. Of course, I'm thrilled now because I got the silver and a base. One base was traded away. I said, "Here's the $70. We'll buy the last 2." And everybody's like, "Oh, why are you going to buy those? The product's kicked, you name it." He opens up the first blaster, he gets a Morant. And in the second blaster, he got a Zion Pulsar green out of 25. So now, we open up boxes online, we break boxes, and he's like, "Why is there no Zion in here? Where's the LeBron? Where's all this?" And I'm like, "Dude, come on. That's never going to happen to you ever again for the rest of your life." And of course, I got to keep buying. Got to keep buying because we're chasing the Zion. But yeah, it was a pretty crazy story. And, it's gambling. Every once in a while, I guess you get a story like that. But for the most part, when I break online, I'm mad afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, I should have just bought the card I wanted, or, buy a bunch of raw and grade them and that kind of stuff. So,
speaking of buying a card you want, can you guys educate me? And this is a question for both Brett and you, Cage. Optic PSA 10, Lamar Jackson. Prism PSA 10, Lamar Jackson. Optic PSA 10, Mahomes. Prism PSA 10, Mahomes. Which do you think is a better long-term investment?
I think so there's a couple ways to take this. I think obviously Prism, for whatever reason, Prism is the king right now. So that's the safer bet. I think just the other thing just to mention is just if you look at the Lamar Jackson card and look at the population, especially the silver, it's low based on the way the card was printed. And so there's going to be the scarcity component there with that card and that set. So I think to me, if I, had all the money in the world, I'd go and I'd gobble up the Prism Lamar Jackson or whatever ones I could get my hands on. I think Optic is a good set, but I think Optic, there's some issues with Optic with just some surface issues. It's still a little unproven on the football side. So for me, I'm a big football card buyer, collector, and investor, and none of my money has been put towards Optic. It's all towards Contenders, Prism, and Select, and some NT. That's been my strategy. But yeah, yeah, that's my response on that.
I happen to love Optic, but if it's hey Matt, you're gonna buy a PSA 10 of a guy, a Lamar or a Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, I buy the Prism every day of the week and 4 times on Sunday. Same thing if I'm go ahead.
No, go for it. I've got another thought on just Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, well, we'll make sure we get there. But my deal, I'll keep it short, which I have a hard time doing. Andrew will tell you. But for grading purposes, right? If you're going to buy Raw and hope to get a 10, chances are you're going to do better buying Raw on Prism than on Optic. Optic is very condition sensitive. And in a perfect world, a perfect economy, right? You try to find the stuff that's more scarce and think that's going to be the better long term. And I think overall, no matter what sport you talk about, no matter where you are, the optic hollow is going to be more rare. And I can tell you just from personal experience on my Devontae stuff, right? I've graded a ton of optic hollows and I've graded a ton of silvers, and it's almost impossible to get an optic hollow 10 from PSA.
But we did.
PSA.
But we did.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, we did. I did get one this weekend. I mean,
humble flex. I love this guy. He's so humble.
It does happen. But the truth of the matter is, it's you just look at the pop reports, and the optic hollows are really just what Brett said. There's scratches, there's surface issues, you name it, and you would think that would win out over time, and maybe it will. I'm shocked with the demand that there is for Mosaic. And maybe that kind of demand will hit optic one year when people start actually researching the pop reports and whatnot. But you know what you find? Supply and demand, they work together, right? So there might be more supply for the Prism PSA 10s of the guys you mentioned, but there is significantly more demand as well, right? So it just comes down to that theory of economics, right? It's supply and demand. And trust me, while there's less supply of optic, there's significantly more demand. But talk about Lamar.
Yeah. So I just wanted to say, just like for everybody, and what I'm doing right now, just because I think it's a good bet, is after watching every game week 1, my thoughts are, and this is definitely can be argued, but the Ravens are where they picked up on last year. They're the best team in football, most depth, most talent. They are just going to be an offensive juggernaut all freaking year. So if you're going to want to dip your toes into football cards, like there's no more exciting place to put it than in the Baltimore Ravens and in their offense. You got Dobbins, who's the rookie running back, who's gonna be on the goal line all year. If it's not going to be Andrews on the goal line, it's not going to be Lamar. It might be Dobbins. Like there's that. I've been talking about Hollywood Brown forever. He had 100 yards in his first game back. And then the sleeper pick, just because he's the number 2, I'm a Notre Dame guy, Miles Boykin. Like I bought up $100 worth of Miles Boykin this past week. Silvers, numbered select, contender stuff, just because I'm sitting on him and I'm like, there's going to be a game where he's going to pop. So I just think like the Ravens, like they're just to me, investing in the Ravens offense and those players is like the safest investment that anyone who's interested in dipping their toes in football cards this year, they're going to just beat people up all freaking year, and they're going to get in the end zone, whether it's Lamar running, Lamar throwing it 60 yards down the field to Hollywood Brown. I just think it took me 1 week to watch him again and be like, all right, put your money in the Ravens.
I love it. So one of my big ways to get an edge on your competition, and I said this throughout every episode, watch the games. You have to watch the games. If you want an edge, you can't read comments. You can't go on Twitter. You can't get secondhand information. You got to watch the games. I just had both a business idea and a question. So I'll lead with the business idea. If there was a way to watch all of the NFL games, but actually just the plays, and there was an AI or a piece of technology that scraped that for you and just presented the games, unbelievable. How are you able to watch every single one of the NFL games?
My it's not every clip of everything, but it's red zone, right? I'm doing what everyone else is doing.
I knew it's in red zone.
Yeah,
I'm not. If you want, right, you really want to get the real flair for it, Andrew. Watch red zone when the games end. They have this great reel where they replay every touchdown that's scored for the entire day. It's amazing. It's like it used to be like a fastest 2 minutes in football. They will show you from beginning to end the first touchdown on 1 o'clock games all the way through all the 4 o'clock games. You can rewatch just in a constant loop every touchdown that's scored that day. It's a pretty cool thing.
So there's the red zone component, and then I would recommend everyone go. I'm going to be Switzerland here, and I'm not going to go pump a Although if you like, you can reach out to me directly on Instagram and I'll give you information. But like, go spend money on a
Pump whatever you want, man. That's what we're here for. Go for it. You're the guest today.
All right, Joe Bryant, Football Guys. Go check out his site. You're gonna want to go check it out. Buy a subscription. I hopped on there. It's the best fantasy content. It's so much detail and data, and it's so transferable to sports cards. If you spend time on that platform, do your homework before the games, and you point that to the card market, you're going to do well.
And fantasy sports, right? So if you go there and you do that, that's fine. We'll have to talk to him because now he owes us money. But more importantly, if you want to play a little fantasy sports, the Thrive app, that's our newest partner as of today. So we're going to post about it later. Thrive app. You can Luka Nation 20 is our code for you guys. You deposit $20, they'll give you another 20. And it's a cool way of doing it. It's props fantasy. It's different. Go ahead.
So Joe Bryant, it's footballguys.com.
Yeah.
Cool. Because Joe Bryant is actually Kobe Bryant's dad, Jelly Bean Bryant. What about Warren Sharp?
Who?
Warren Sharp? Brett, have you heard of Warren Sharp or not at all?
Oh, Warren Sharp. Yeah, definitely.
I thought we were talking about Warren Sapp here for a second. I was like, all right, I haven't heard that name in a while. Warren's a good defensive player, but
yeah. So yeah, any of those guys, Sharp, like go just read their content. It's so valuable. And like, I like Brian's Football Guys. I've been a Sigmund Bloom guy for a while on Twitter, and he contributes there. So it's just pick your poison, pick your flavor, but just go spend like the $60, $70 on the subscription. You're going to see ROI on that. Just spend some time.
I heard there was this awesome podcast that's free. You don't have to spend any money on, and they nailed everything. I heard that they picked Darius Slayton before the Giant game. I heard they were like on guys you wouldn't believe. It's this podcast called Luka's Tigers and Browns. Oh my.
That's right. The NFL preview could not have been more spot on, and Cage spoke so highly of the Colts, of Phillip Rivers, of how their offense is going to be. I can't say seamless because when you have a new quarterback, there's always a transition period. But given the weapons that they have, he thinks the Colts are in for a great year, and I'm butchering it. I know. What do you think, Brett? Are you excited for the Colts this year? You think Phillip Rivers gets over that December? What is he? He fades in December. What do you think?
Yeah, so I think just in general, I was super bullish on them going into the season. Tough L right out of the gates. I think they're deep on both sides of the ball. It'll be interesting to see how it shakes out, but I think everything. Chris Ballard, the GM, has set that team up for success. So it's on the players and the coaching staff to execute. So I think the South is kind of open territory right now. I'm not calling for a Super Bowl by any means, right? Because I was just talking about how good the Ravens, and then I don't want to leave the Chiefs out of that conversation. And then also, I hate to say it, but the Patriots look pretty good week 1 too. So I think it's just, they've got the team, they've got the depth, they've got a lot of nice pieces. You mentioned Paris Campbell. We've been really excited about him. He's just got to stay healthy, but he looked like
he only played 7 games last year, so he's got to stay on the field. And don't worry about the Patriots. You know what the Patriots game 1 reminded me of? It reminded me of, the neighborhood kids. They got all these crazy fantasy sports games they play on PlayStation. What are they up to? PlayStation 11 now. They got, when I played, it was Atari. It was a stick and a button. Nintendo was like fancy for me. There were 2 buttons, and you can move the direction 4 ways. These guys, the remotes, they have like 47 buttons. So they play football. So I played the NFL football game with them, and I don't know how to do any of the plays. So I just ran quarterback sneak every play. That's what the Patriots offense looked like. Look at me trying to play one of these fancy sports games, just Cam Newton run the ball every time because that's all I was able to do. When they play against a legit defense, and they just stack the box and don't let Cam Newton run the ball every time, we'll see what the Patriots are made of. So, I wouldn't be worried about the Patriots. I think the Colts, the best thing going for the Colts right now is that division is weak. I think they're going to really be able to sharpen their skills against a weak division. I think they're coming out of that division. I think they're going to want to probably home field advantage for a round or 2 in the playoffs. And I think they're going to be good. 1 week, no big deal.
I hope you're right.
Talk to us about start stock. So you mentioned it a little bit in the beginning of today's episode, and I wanted to just come back to it for our people that don't know about it. What is Star Stock? What's the competition they have running, and is there anything people could do to support you with it?
Yeah, so I would say Star Stock is just an incredible platform that allows instant buying and selling online through their platform. you can send in their cards. They'll put them up on their platform and you can transact in real time. Been a big fan of that team and that product as an alternative place to buy and sell cards. Scott Greenberg, who's the CEO, has been a great advocate of my work, and we've become friends, and got lucky and entered their contest, and it's been fun. So I was given $500 to invest in guys throughout the year, buying them and selling them, trading them. And I'm still trying to figure it out right now. But it's a fun contest. So the winner the winner at the end of it gets a PSA 10 Patrick Mahomes rookie. Looks really nice. I'd love that in my PC. But yeah, I think I'd recommend anybody out there, go check out StarStock. If you're sick of fees on eBay, if you're sick of getting stuff returned, like StarStock's a great option. So I'm a big fan of what they're doing.
Love it. And you use Card Ladder. So we just had Chris Hodge on. I use Card Ladder a little bit, but you're an expert. Could you let people know from your perspective the best ways to use Card Ladder? Because as we've talked about, it's not information is power. Information is potential power. And it's really important, as there's more content on the web, to understand where to go to get the right information. How do you use Card Ladder?
Yeah, so I'd recommend anyone who signs up for Card Ladder, go put in your collection, track your cards. I think having that bird's eye view of what's happening with your portfolio on a day-to-day basis is super powerful, because it informs you on the data in the market. So that's point number one. I think point number two is just some like features and functionality that are really nice right now, where it's not just looking at the ladder, but putting it in reverse and seeing the cards that aren't trending up, because the cards that aren't trending up are the ones that you might be potentially good times to buy. And I love that. I love don't buy when the market's hot. Don't buy at the peak. Buy when people are not paying attention or the card market's down. So
Zig when they zag. That's what Andrew said. Zig when they zag. I love it.
100%. So I just my biggest thing just being in technology, the user interface is super slick. It's easy to use. Like I just really enjoy it. And
so it's funny, man. I'm going to pound on that because I'm not a tech guy and you are, and I love that you love the interface, but I'm like an old school legal pad instead of a computer guy. And they have both, because Chris is in the weeds. When we had him on, he's like, hey, I listened to your episode. I know this many people are now going to go out and buy this card. I went in and added the card that you recommended to the site. So it's not just the tech behind it, right? Just the computer. He's adding, good old-fashioned elbow grease into it as well. So, I mean, it really is – you don't see that combination, too often.
Yeah, and I want to comment on that. So to me, when I buy products, it's not just about the features or functionality, but it's more about the people behind it. And there is not better people in the hobby behind a product than the Card Ladder team right now. That's a ringing freaking endorsement by me, because I truly believe in what Chris is doing. And to that point, all I have to do is slide into his DMs and say, hey, I just bought this Kyler Murray card. It's not on Card Ladder. It's up on Card Ladder in seconds. So it's just the customer experience there is first class. I'm a firm believer of what they're doing. I think everyone in the hobby should give Card Ladder a chance.
So we've asked you about everybody else, Card Ladder. Tell us about your own stuff. Talk about your podcast. Talk about your stuff. Let's where can our people find you?
Yeah, so people can find me everywhere across all social channels at StackingSlabs. You can listen to the podcast. I drop episodes on Wednesday and Friday. Wednesday episodes are usually my takes. It's just me talking just like this. And people often ask me, it's just bullet points. It's just I'm opinionated and have a lot of things to say. The intention is just to really educate you and allow people to understand process and ideas that they can apply in their own strategies. I don't give you picks. I don't tell you what to do. I don't believe in that. And on Fridays, I have the Hobby Hustle, which I'll have to get you guys on the Hobby Hustle. And I just talk to people in the hobby, and basically it's sharing information with the market. But for me, I'm learning from those people while I'm having the conversations. So I've been doing a lot of Instagram TV stuff. Definitely probably number one place. Follow Stacking Slabs on Instagram. That's the number one platform right now. But go hit the subscribe button. Check out my show. I respond to everyone. So I think the more we engage with each other, the more we'll learn and we'll all be helpful. So I do appreciate what you guys are doing. More people need to be creating content and this type of stuff, because I think it really matters. And it's on us to educate. And because what I always say, the more people who are jump in the hobby and who are educated, the more people will stay. And when the more people will stay, that means more money for all of our sports cards.
Oh yeah, 100%. And an informed consumer base, which is something you're doing, where we're trying to do, what Carline is doing, what basically everybody's doing. And I don't know when this will post. It's gonna be episode 65, Andrew? Here. So imagine number 65. So guest Brett, and we'll let you know how much we love. We're talking to you. I don't know if it's gonna post today, but we're talking to you today on the 2-month birthday anniversary of the podcast, even with 65 episodes in 2 months. So we have no shortage of content. We're definitely doing what we can here to, keep the listening audience engaged. But we hope to get you up there soon. I don't want to, our editing staff, I don't want to put any extra, time constraints on
Well, I was going to ask Brett that. Brett, are you working with a team on your content? Is it just you? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I'm a one-man operation, but I don't do it all myself. So I've got a outsourced editing department because I value my time, and that's not my area of expertise. So I do pay for that. I tell my people I'm bootstrapping this thing right now. It's all me, and I'm paying right now for out of my pocket because I believe in what I'm doing, and I believe in the engagement. So right now I'm highly focused on building the Stacking Slabs brand and helping people out.
I was going to say,
we'll do what we can there, right?
I was going to say he's doing an amazing job. He's on Facebook. He's on Twitter. He has his own website. He has his podcast. He's on Instagram. He's throwing up funny memes. He's doing long episodes. I think whoever you have working with you or for you, I think you're doing an amazing job.
I appreciate that. And I want to shout you guys out. Like, people say this about me. I kind of came out of nowhere and people started following me and stuff. Same thing with you guys. I see your content everywhere. Keep it up. It's really good stuff. And I'm really happy we could jump on and have this conversation.
Yeah, man. Listen, any of the listeners out there, go give them a follow, go subscribe. Straight shooter, just from, the hour that we're talking here now, you can tell he's not going to try to sell you anything. He's just going to try to inform you, which is, we need more of that in the hobby. Might make it last a little longer.
Final prediction tonight: Mr. Joe Burrow or Mr. Baker Mayfield? Don't bite your nails. Don't get nervous.
You're not asking me. I thought you were asking Brett.
I am asking Brett.
Oh,
nothing
to be nervous about.
So I will say here's a couple of things. So I think tonight, just in closing, I think tonight is going to be Joe Burrow's first win. I think it's going to be Joe Burrow's first win because Kevin Johnson, Greedy Williams, MJ Stewart on the Browns. I think they got 3 guys on the secondary that aren't playing. That's a lot to ask Denzel Ward to cover everybody. So I think if Burrow doesn't throw the ball in traffic like he did last week, he should be good. I think there's going to be there's a lot of vulnerability. And the thing that going into the game that a lot of people might not be talking about is just the Bengals might have lost last week, but their defense looked pretty good. They only gave up 16 points. They were great against the pass. So I like the Bengals tonight. I really do. And sorry to all the Browns fans, and maybe you'll prove me wrong when the Browns win, but I think this is the Bengals night.
So I would agree with every single thing you said if this game was on Sunday. I think it's too much to ask a rookie quarterback to come with that sort of a turnaround. I don't think his coach got enough time to put enough plays in for him, for this defense. I think there's enough time in the film room. I think you saw on Sunday that he made some rookie mistakes. But here's the best part, right? So I think Cleveland's going to win. I think it's going to probably be a back and forth. I think Burrow's going to have a great game. I really do like him long term. But what I will say is this: it's what I love about the Thrive Fantasy app. I'm actually betting on both of those quarterbacks tonight. I don't care who wins. I think they're both going to go over their yard prop. So there you go, Luka Nation 20. So, but I think if we're calling it, I think it's going to be. I think Baker Mayfield is going to win the Battle of Ohio tonight. Andrew disagrees. A lot of people disagree. I don't care. I'm sticking with it. Mayfield's not as bad as he was last weekend last year. He's probably not as good as he was in 2018. But
I'm a little frustrated that NFL has taken over the zeitgeist, the culture from my favorite sport in NBA. If we're being honest, it's all NFL talk this week. And I love NBA. So
Hey, let's chop it up again. You're right. We didn't talk enough NBA, so we'll have to do it next time for sure. Maybe I'll have you on the show. We'll talk finals.
From the hobby, though, Andrew, isn't it a good thing, right? Because basketball's going to be done soon, right? Basketball will be on in a couple of weeks. And one of the things that I don't want to say concerned about, but curious about is probably the better word is, would the hobby carry over? A lot of what drove this hobby and the momentum of the hobby, I thought, was the sneaker flipper culture, the flip game guys, the people who were already in tune with basketball and maybe not so much with football, the hip hop culture, you name it. And I don't want to say I was concerned, but I wanted to see what would happen. Would the card collecting, breaking, momentum, would it carry over to football? And I think it clearly has, which is a good thing for the hobby and for longevity.
fair. Thanks, Brett. We appreciate your time today, and it was really good to connect, man.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Brett, anything we could do, listen, let us know, man. We answer all our DMs also. So, if there's anything we can do, guys, follow his accounts. And, thanks for joining us, man. We'll have you on again soon.
Yeah, appreciate it, guys. You take it easy. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you for spending some time with us on another episode of the Luka's, Tigers, and Bronze Oh My podcast. Do us a favor and like, subscribe. You know what? Don't just like and subscribe. Everybody does that. If you like us, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your enemies, tell everybody. And we hope you got something from spending some time with us today, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.